I am guided by imagination, open to my creation, creating wins and celebrations. Don't be overwhelmed by information, more important than education. Be inspired by your exploration, on the path to your destination, leading to innovation. Yes, you are guided by imagination. Hello and welcome to the Guided by Imagination podcast. I'm your hostess, Joyful Jenny, and I have my awesome friend here, DTO. What's up, DTO?
Hey, hey.
Yay! If you haven't met DTO yet, he is an award-winning producer. And also, I just found out, endorsed by Deepak Chopra. So that's
Yes.
pretty incredible. You have to tell us a little bit more about that.
Mhm.
And
The origin
introduce
story.
yourself and anything that the audience would like to know about you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on your podcast, Guided My Imagination. I love both of those words because I feel like we can guide each other and we're also being guided by whoever our guides are, right? I like to say the Great Spirit. Um, ta-da! And of course, for us to imagine the possibilities of living a life with imagination and dreams, and yeah, for us to stay in that artistic flow. So yeah, I can reverse engineer, who I am, introduce myself, talk about how eventually I became an award-winning producer, musician, and how I've been traveling globally. I currently reside in Costa Rica. So if anyone is interested in coming and visiting, we have a beautiful wellness and retreat center here called Embody Costa Rica.
Mm.
And we get to embody our imagination each and
Yes.
every moment. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well,
So much alignment.
exactly. It's fully, my chakras are fully in alignment. Love it. Well, my origin story is that I was born and raised in the cornfields of Iowa.
Oh,
I,
I was Illinois, so also
Illinois.
cornfields one year, soybeans the next year.
Exactly. You know the crop rotation. Actually, I read recently, we're going to get super detailed, that Illinois actually has more corn grown than Iowa, where most people would think like, oh, Illinois has Chicago and you have like more city life, like Michigan, you have all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
But actually, Illinois has so much more land than Iowa to grow the corn. So I was just on. So I grew up actually, to get super specific, because I was on the border of Iowa and Illinois. So
Oh.
it's eastern Iowa. I grew up in a small town called Muscatine. And I would go across the bridge, the Mark Twain Bridge, because Mark Twain used to live in Iowa, in Muscatine. And I would go over to Illinois. And I actually dated a farm girl over in Illinois once upon a time when I was a
Oh.
teenager. So I would go back and forth to Iowa, Illinois. So if anyone knows the Midwest, you know that in that part of the world, it's the Mississippi River. So I grew up in this beautiful body of water, lots of flow, lots of me just being at the river, creeks, lakes, and streams. And honestly, we talk about streams of consciousness. I feel like that's how my imagination grew because as this boy, I had this beautiful life of just riding my bike around, being with friends, and grateful to say that I chose a mom. I like to frame it like that, that was
Oh.
classically trained on piano. So guess what? There was a piano in the household, and I got classically trained as well. So that was my first experience of being able to take what other people have written musically, learn the scales, of course, by practicing. But the big imagination aha moment happened when I was around 10 years old and I was taking piano lessons. And my instructor, Dr. Sessler, told my mom, you know, he's playing Beethoven, but he's kind of doing his own version of it. And then I kind of went off the page and recognized, wait, if I start experimenting with this key, I have 88 keys on a piano. So I started imagining based on what my soul, my heart, and just what my ears and just curiosity, you just like, oh, what would this sound like? These notes together and all these variations. And from there, I just started to mix and match. And I started to write my own music at 10 years old. And that for me was a massive breakthrough.
Ooh, that's awesome. I'm
Mhm.
curious, while you were imagining, those things, what did you visualize, something about being on a stage or anything of like your future self, or did any
You
of that
know,
like imagination
it,
really come in there?
I know it's going to sound like very common, but it comes back to the typical energy of love. Like I remember I had this little love, I think I was in what, fifth grade back then. I had this girl that I really liked. And I thought, ooh, if I could play a song and write a song for a girl, like what could that have me? Of course, maybe rock star aspirations, naturally being on stages was there. But in that like laser focused
I
experience
love
of
that.
the moment, I was like, what could I do to romance
Yeah,
this girl and
because that's
have her like,
impressive.
ooh,
Not
yeah,
every fifth grade boy can play that kind of piano.
yeah, exactly. Just playing something that would be for me to, and this is where I feel a lot of people that are in the creative arts, it's that whole cathartic, like what you're feeling, are you longing for someone, you feeling love and connection, and then how can you express that through music, through art, through a painting, for example,
Yeah.
through a podcast, right? Like how do we get to be self-expressed? And that for me was a breakthrough moment because I realized, wow, I can besides playing, I call it OPM, other people's music, like that song OPP. I like to do it like, oh, it's my
Now with
own music.
OPM, yeah, you know me. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm down with OPM. Now I'm down with DTO in the flow.
The
So it was really
DTO in the
fun.
flow.
Exactly. So yeah, it's so fun for me to really like uncover that. And then, from there, it's just like that spark and that curiosity that then starts the wheels turning and then my heart stirring. I was like, okay, what else can I do? And then at that point, of course, I started playing other instruments. I started playing the drums, guitar a little bit, and my emotions were just fun to just like rock out on the drums. So that was a great part of my creativity, self-expression process. Because I feel like we're all artists, we're all creatures, we're part of creation, and creativity is our birthright. And for us to, there's one thing, it's interesting because I'm at this beautiful retreat center called Embody. It's like the stages are like imagine and dream up something and then embody that into action.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I love the whole idea of embodiment and expression, just playing into that so much because, and I do a lot of embodiment with also the work that I do with women, business owners as well, is like
Yeah.
with branding, it's not just your brand and your company, but it's like who you are being and who
Mm-hmm.
you are embodying and getting really in alignment with those values and be able to have that, freedom of imagination, freedom of expression, freedom of
Yeah.
playfulness. Like let's tap into that childlike, joy and wonder and I think that can really just unveil so much more happiness in our
Mm-hmm.
lives when we can do that. So it's amazing
Yeah.
that you do that with music all the time.
Completely. And I feel like your work in the world, I trust that you're not doing it all in silence. I'm sure there's music and
Oh
energy
yeah.
frequencies that
Yeah.
get to empower people and move ourselves, move the organism. So some people probably want to know right now, like, what's DTO mean? So it means Dave the organism. And it was this moment I had where I recognized that we're all connected and we're all a part of nature. I was actually on a trail run and I had one of these interesting moments where I saw a hawk fly over and then there was a rattlesnake and then a bee like came by me and it's that like interesting synchronistic moment. I like had my hand up in the air. It was almost like the movie Avatar. I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, I'm this like organism. I'm this being, just like this tree in the paintings of organism, this planet's organism. You're an organism, right? I was like, everything is alive in the cosmos. And so for me, that really kind of transcended space and time. And then it's like, whoa, I get to live this life. Like I get to be in this organism and embody that, like this vessel, this vehicle, this temple, and this body gets to ignite into whatever I feel drawn to do. And I truly do believe if I would not have chosen, or the path of music would not have chosen me, it would not have been the life worth living because it is extraordinary how, I have like millions and millions of streams on my Spotify and Apple Music and Pandora, and people license my music. So when I get the feedback from other people, interestingly, Australia, of the top five cities in the world, three of my five cities in the world are from in Australia. And I get people that will DM me on Instagram, hey, I love your music. It's really supported my yoga practice, my meditation, or I've been going through a hard time, some challenges, and the music like uplifted me in ways I didn't know. So that's what I empower people to do as well, is just how you guide and lead women. I have mentorship programs where I empower creatives out there, whether they're musicians or wanting to have a business, have a marketing agency, essentially, where it's like, your job is to be authentically you. That's all. Just show up. Just like we're showing up on this podcast to talk about imagination and what's, in store for all of us if we just, shift into what is our birthright as creativity is there. And it's just step by step, as they say in Spanish, poco a poco, right? You don't have to climb the mountain in the first hour. You just start where you're at in the valley and just go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And yeah, consistency.
Yes, consistency is key. Yeah, helps us
Yeah.
just really, because a lot of people, I think, get so caught up in that mountain, like, oh, I never make it to that mountain. And
Yeah.
just like the saying about how do you eat an elephant? Well, I would never actually eat an elephant,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, exactly.
but I do want to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I hear you. No, it is that absolute place and space. Like for me, this is a beautiful time in my life because, I moved to Costa Rica in 2020 with my wife, Himalaya, and we imagined having our own healing sanctuary for people to come to feel like there's this home for them for healing, transformation, community, connection. I even have a professional recording studio on site, and it's phenomenal when people are here and they get so motivated and inspired. They'll either have like a spoken word poem, a guided meditation, a song, whatever starts to come through.
True.
And then they, in that moment, can jump into the studio and start to create that and have the support. Because I feel sometimes we've imagined this life for ourselves, but then it's like, oh, but I'm all by myself. I have to do it alone. Or it feels like the way the world's on my shoulders because I
Yeah.
got two jobs and I might
I don't know
have
how to do
this,
it.
this, this. Yeah, I don't know the
Yeah.
how. And so, and you and I are part of this beautiful community of creative artists in the world. And I know that's how we connected. And it's like so fantastic because it doesn't need to be this struggle of like competitiveness and life is hard. I'm all alone. It's really like, let's collaborate, let's connect, let's actually empower one another. Because I like this, I call it like cosmic mathematics, or like 1+1 = infinity. Because that synergy, when it combines, like it's phenomenal. I've done this with lots of my music. If anyone ever heard my music, I encourage you to check it out. Because when I work with a singer, for example, like I'll create the music, then it's like foundation, like this garden, and then this beautiful, usually like divine feminine singers, like this sunflower that emerges, and it's this really nice hybrid of energy that really comes through. And it's because of that 1+1 synergetic, because now there's infinite possibilities because that person comes to the table with their skill sets. I have my skill sets. And then together you really start to complement each other or find your zones of genius. And then from there, there's so much more possibilities. And again, you're not alone. You don't have to do it by yourself. In this day and age, we have so much global connectivity. So, that's what I love about where we're at in this paradigm. Because when I grew up, as I was sharing at the beginning, it was like the friends I knew were like my neighbors across the street.
Yeah, same.
We'd be out in like
Very
big
secluded.
wheels, very secluded. And it was like small town, Illinois or Iowa. And now at any day we can, this morning alone, I had a couple Zoom meetings and calls with some people that are in a variety of different countries. Whereas I mentioned just moments ago, how my music has an international reach. And just like your podcast, I'm sure gets streamed in different countries all over the world. And it's just a matter of going for it, right?
Exactly. Just put it out there. Just put it out there. Yeah, I love what you were sharing about the we don't have to do it alone. We just put it out there. We communicate our wants, our wishes, our dreams,
Yeah.
and we can make that happen. I have a similar vision and dream about having a wellness retreat center someday, and
Mm,
I've been speaking into that. And then I'd love to do more. I maybe someday we can do some vocal recordings. I love
mm.
to sing more. That just brings my heart a lot of joy. So yeah, I feel very aligned.
I love it. Yeah. And what's beautiful, because when you're calling that in, you want to manifest that, then usually that key piece comes in, which is called support. And there's also what I always let people know, there's support all around you, but sometimes people are like hardened or like, oh, I'm going to get hurt if someone supports me, or I'm not going to get the proper support, or, the A personality types, like, I'm the only one that could ever do it ever. And it's like, actually, you could do it, but then you could also teach someone else to do it in the way that you like it done. And then you now have a team of people. Like, for example, with
Yeah.
my marketing agency, I have like 5 team members. I don't want to be doing social media all day. I don't want to be writing all my newsletters. I don't want to be doing all of my website updates. And on the ground here, we have a beautiful sweat lodge. We have a labyrinth. We have now developed more and more of our land. We just now are growing more of our own food. A lot of it's farm to table. So we have a team of gardeners that come on site, and it's beautiful because then when there's collaboration and team and support, now you're actually supporting, like for us in Costa Rica, we highly value supporting the local economy, making sure that the locals are able to really thrive, because Costa Rica, they put all their chips on the table years ago, like 5 decades ago, and everything's about tourism. So when 2020 and the pandemic happened, many people were like, very, very much not able to earn any money anymore and earn a living. So when we moved here in 2020, it was beautiful because we got to connect and start this whole vision that came to life. But yeah, the whole piece that I want to share with you, and that you already know, Jenny, but for your audience, is, we all deserve support. We all deserve to have that collaborative spirit. And guess what? Our minds, our hearts, our souls, that's one piece of the 8 billion organisms in human form on planet Earth, right? And if you bring in someone else, I mean, just a crazy side story. I was just at the bank here in Costa Rica, and there's a gentleman that came in. He's actually from Chile, and he saw the shirt I was wearing. I took it off. I put a collared shirt on for the podcast, but I was wearing this before we hopped on. It was a Buddha Music Group shirt. This is a company
Oh,
that
cool.
Marco and myself and Kiyoshi, a bunch of creatives
Oh,
wear.
yay.
And he was like, hey, usted es músico, ¿sí? And I was like, sí, claro que sí, soy músico. And from there, he's like, oh, I play the bass, I'm local. I've been recorded for a while. I was like, hey, I have a recording studio. So we got each other's numbers. He's going to actually come over on Monday, and we're going to just start playing. And guess what my declaration was when I came to Costa Rica? I want to work with Latino musicians. I
Yes.
have about 5 songs in Spanish, and I want to expand that catalog of offerings. But yeah, it's really powerful once you like state your intention, put it out there, then we just magnetize
Yes.
and it
You
just
magnetize
starts
it
to
with
flood
the
in,
right
right?
people. It's like synergy, synchronism. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
synchronicity. Ah.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said a moment ago was sharing the vision.
Yes.
And that is, I think, key, especially, I'm building my team too, and just helping everybody share that vision and see what's be in alignment. And it's so key because it brings people together and
Yeah.
it makes a difference. So, yay.
Completely.
I
Yeah, and when there's a shared vision, then there's like other, these like blind spots that we don't have. We're
yes.
only one piece of the entire puzzle of the world, and if someone else comes in, they can bring something to the table, and they just share something that you're like, oh, I never thought of it like that. Thank you so much. Or, I love to work with people that are in their 20s. I used to be a high school teacher, as a side note, so I really am great with like teenagers, and they would be like, whoa, Profe Camp, you're lit. You're on Instagram, Spotify. Like, I've never had a cool teacher like you.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, yeah. And then they'd be like, hey, are you on TikTok? And I'd be like, this is like 8 years ago. And I was like, what? And what do you mean? What are you talking about? It's like, no, like, you're not on TikTok. And then, of course, like Snapchat, all these.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people add my music to their TikTok reels. A lot of people do the same for Instagram. And it's really beautiful because there's this whole intergenerational piece. I think that's one way that we can expand our imagination, is sometimes we get these like fuddy-duddy, like, get off my lawn, these kids don't know anything. I get super inspired when I'm around the youth as much as my elders. Even just yesterday, a gentleman that lives in Sedona that moved to Costa Rica, it's in his 70s, and we just had this beautiful dropped in conversation, and his wisdom and presence really inspired me to continue in this human journey in the way I am. So that's another piece I feel is sometimes we seclude ourselves, right? We're like, we're only going to hang out with the cool kids. It's like, okay, well, yeah, you got your little group, but if you expand that out to just fresh individuals that you've never had these experiences with. Now, full disclosure, you can tell I'm an extrovert. I know some people need their time to recharge. My wife is
Yeah.
completely like that. Himalaya is sometimes like, and I've hit my social capacity.
Yeah.
She's like, and I'm done.
And retreat. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's when it's like, if you want to have a conversation, DTO is more than happy to tell you about, Costa Rica and the region we live
All
in.
the things.
And, like where we actually chose in Costa Rica, a fun little side note, is considered by National Geographic to have the best climate in the world because we're at 2,300 feet altitude. And also, we're in the middle of the Caribbean and the Pacific Ocean. So we have all these microclimates in Costa Rica. And where we're at is said one to be the best because it's 82 degrees Fahrenheit year round. So if you're a climate seeker and you want like the best place to perhaps retire or just come on vacation, this is like a beautiful part of the world. Because I've heard in the States, those people listen in the States, of course, there's been like crazy heat waves. Last I checked, certain parts like in Illinois and Iowa, it gets quite cold during certain times of year. So that's what sometimes for me, I feel
I
like,
don't live there.
yeah, exactly. I know. But I feel like that's a little Jedi tip I want to share with your audience as well, is if you feel like your imagination is stagnant and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I can't come up with any ideas. Sometimes you have to just shake it off. Of course, do embodiment practices where you're at. And if you have the possibility of travel or even just taking a walk, I feel like that's always a great achievement. Just to leave your front door for some people could be a miracle,
Be in
True.
nature. Yeah, to be in
Oh, for
nature,
sure.
just go to a place.
Yeah.
This is perfect because I was actually just going to ask
There
you.
we go. I got to show you a
It-
little
oh yeah,
magical view of our land.
Costa Rica's calling.
Costa Rica, pura vida. Por favor, vengan, vengan.
So for all the viewers, go be in nature, find some space to just connect, ground, do some meditation, do some deep breathing, and you never know what kind of music or ideas or creativity will come your way.
Mhm.
And how
Yes.
can people follow you and listen to your music? You mentioned some of your channels.
Yeah. So DTOmusic.com is like the centralized hub for everything. And that's pretty much the same on all socials, Instagram, DTO Music. You could also, of course, if you want to come to our retreat center, anything that's Embody Costa Rica. Our website, of course, is embodycostarica.com. Feel free to check out what we're sharing on any of your favorite social media apps, all the platforms. I know we can't keep up with all of them, but if you go to whichever one you choose, but specifically when it comes to my music, what I've loved is when people are content creators like yourself, Jenny, where they're like, hey, I want to have music that's really soul stirring and inspirational that's on my YouTube channel. And then they'll grab a piece of music. They don't ask permission from the artist, and then they get flagged or they get their whole video taken down. So that's a cool thing. I actually offer a really amazing deal if you go to dtomusic.com where people can license my music as a content creator. It's just a minimal annual subscription. And then on top of that, I'm going to share your content. You can tag me on Instagram Reels. So again, go back to that theme of collaboration. That's one of the pieces that I love is, music's for everyone. I have a common friend like Betsy Finkelhu. She does guided meditations and utilizes my music. So that's a really cool part. I just got 2 of my songs licensed for an Amazon Prime movie. So that's super exciting. So yeah, it's
Yay.
pretty fun when you as I said earlier, when you're consistent. I put brand new music out every single month. So that's a really nice part about it too. Is sometimes, we have our favorite artist and you're like, oh, this album, but it was like 10 years ago. It's still good, but why don't they have any new stuff?
Yeah.
So for me, but albums are dead. Let's just call it what it is. Everything's
Yeah.
about a single, the remix. You just have to, piece by piece, put everything out. But yeah, that's the way to find me. I'd love to connect with anyone. You can DM me. I'm the guy that actually runs the messaging and I check my emails and all that.
Great.
So I'm more than happy to directly say hello and yeah, hear what you're up to.
Thanks, DTO, so much for being
You're
here.
welcome.
I greatly appreciate all your stories, your ideas, your creativity.
Yeah,
And I look forward to connecting with you soon.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you.
And it's all happening.
And thanks
Ciao.
everybody for tuning in to the Guided by Imagination podcast. See you soon. Bye.
If you want to activate your imagination and creativity and have more fun in front of the camera with your photos and videos to market your business online or share your message to make a difference in the world, I'd love to offer you a complimentary 30-minute inspiration session, a Zoom room that we can set up and chat about ideas and inspiration to make your day a celebration with Guided by Imagination. Click the link in the show notes.